My name is Tom Pellegrino. I have the pleasure of serving as the Master of Ceremonies today's Convocation. I am also the official timekeeper, and I assure you in our brief time here today, I will keep time, and this event also will be followed by a wine and cheese buffet, which we all invite you to attend. Joined with me on stage here today is Father Jeffrey Von Arx, our president, our Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Lynn Babington, and our Executive Vice President, Kevin Lawlor. A convocation, in the simplest of terms, is a gathering of people. And I want to thank all of you for gathering here today, for taking time out of your busy day to be here with us. It is something we don't often do as a university. We want to do this more often, to gather together like this. And while you might already be seeing, just in 10 days of being here, signs of familiarity and friendship, but also fatigue in all the folks you see here, it is a great opportunity for all of us to be here today. I'm also hopeful that while you're sitting there listening to this process and this discussion, that you'll hear in some of our discussions some of your ideas, some of your thoughts, some of your ambitions, indeed some of your own concerns and anxieties. And while you may feel like passive observers sitting there for this process, I want you to know that you're very much an important part of what we're doing here today. And while there's a certain formality around this process, including with an oriental rug on loan from Dr. Philip Eliasov, which we thank you, Philip, for, and also 4 chairs stolen from Kevin Lawlor's office, which we did not ask him permission for. This is sort of an informal gathering here today. But to get us started here, I want to welcome to the stage Father Charles Allen of the Society of Jesus, University Chaplain, to offer a blessing and some comments for our convocation. Father Allen.
Sadly, few of you have seemed to notice that I arrived a week late. I wanted to be back here to greet the freshmen as they arrived. What was that, a week ago last Sunday? I was all set, prepared to come back. But then something happened that delayed me for a week, and I only returned this past Sunday. What happened? As I was getting ready to return, and I was down in Cape May, New Jersey, enjoying the wonderful Jersey shore, when I received the mail. And in the mail was our Jesuit magazine, Conversations. And on the cover was, Daunting Challenges for Jesuit Higher Education. And I said, I don't think I'm up to any daunting challenges. Why don't I just stay down here? These nuns are taking very good care of me. And actually, I would eventually have a lovely Fairfield University wedding. 2 of our accounting majors. 2 people whose lives will be forever ruled by GAAP. I'm glad the accountants in the audience get that. But then I stopped to think, oh, how fortunate those who came before us were, that they didn't have daunting challenges. Think of the men, the first few Jesuits who came down in 1942. Except for a major depression and a world war, life was beautiful. Then, of course, when those first 15 faculty gathered in 1947, 11 Jesuits and 4 laymen, not a problem. They only had to worry about one building, Xavier Hall, and probably not more than 40 or 50 students. Sometimes people refer to that period between 1960 and 1980 as the glory years of higher education in the United States. When you think of those wonderful years, except for the assassination of a president, of his younger brother, of a beloved civil rights leader, of civil turmoil over a hated war, as well as all kinds of changes within the church and the decline in vocations, it was a great time to be alive. I only wish that I hadn't been alive during those years. Yes, when you look back over the past, I think those who went before us probably faced far more daunting challenges than even we face today. But certainly there are challenges. And so I've been asked to give a blessing, and knowing that how successful my blessings are, all those challenges that we face will quickly disappear. Let us pray. Let us pray that each one of us, and we as a university, can confront our own daunting problems with wisdom, planning, courage, and perseverance, and maybe even a bit of good luck. Almighty and ever-loving God, as we gather at Fairfield University on this quiet, rainy afternoon at the beginning of another school year, we ask that the Jesuit vision of education, which has inspired this institution for the past 73 years, might continue to be a source of strength and joy for those of us who administer, study, and teach here. May we have the wisdom to properly understand the challenges and the opportunities which lie ahead of us, and then prepare and plan for all eventualities in a mature and realistic way. May we be a people of courage who do not give in to our fears or our doubts. May each day be an opportunity for us to do great things in the service of our God and those whom you have entrusted to our care. And finally, may we be a people of perseverance, who in good times and in bad, in wealth and in poverty, in war and in peace, continue to labor with joy in your vineyard. And so, dear God, knowing that you are our loving God who cares for us and watches over us, we ask you to bless this Fairfield University. Bless all of those who work here, those who study here, those who love this institution. And we ask this, for we know you are our God, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you, Father Allen. It is now my pleasure to welcome to the podium our president, Father Jeffrey Von Arx, to offer a welcome address for our convocation. Father Von Arx.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this, the first of what we hope will be an annual Fairfield University Fall Convocation. It's surprising in the sense that it's taken us 75 years to recognize how valuable such an occasion could be for our community. But cultures evolve, and every tradition has to start someplace, arising out of the circumstances that call them into being. And it now seems clear to me that we owe it to ourselves and to the well-being of this community to begin every new year this way, in fellowship and celebration, talking about our plans, our hopes, and our desires for the coming year. It's a good time to get reacquainted with our colleagues and friends, to connect with those people in academics, student affairs, facilities, marketing, advancement, and so on, who are all integral to our shared work and on whom we depend as part of our joint enterprise. The word convocation means very simply to call together, and today we call together all of our friends and colleagues in a spirit of fellowship and collegiality. Every academic year is the beginning of a new cycle. All of us called together here today are asked at this time of year to summon our strength and resources and join together as one body in the great work of recreating a university. For a university is not just the classrooms, residence halls, libraries, or arenas. A university is a community of teachers, students, other professionals, engaged in the very important work of learning, searching for truth in our interactions with our students, in the continual discovery of research and scholarship, and in the greater overarching mission of a Jesuit and Catholic university, which is to serve the truth by forming men and women who will go out into the world and transform it for the better. This has always been the mission of Jesuit education, and it remains the mission of Jesuit education today, and it will always be the core value to which we return when we ask ourselves, are we still inspired by the desire to do more? Are we still inspired as individuals and as a community by the Magus in the Ignatian sense in which I know you are all familiar? So I thank you for being here today for this important event, and it's my hope, as I say, that this fall convocation is the first of many for Fairfield University. In a few moments, I'm going to ask Lynn Babington, our Provost, and Kevin Lawlor, our Executive Vice President, to join me in answering some questions about where we are headed and what we anticipate in the coming year. But I wanted to say first a few words about what I see in our university's future and share with you my optimism about the direction in which we are headed. Over the past year, as you know very well, we have been involved in a strategic planning process culminating in a report, Fairfield 2020, The Way Forward. This was a community-wide effort involving hundreds of faculty, staff, alumni, and students, where we asked ourselves what we needed to do to ensure that we remain a viable institution, and indeed a leadership institution as we move into the coming decades. I'm very encouraged by the fruit of that process and with the conclusions that we have reached. I won't attempt to go into the details of our findings at this moment, but what we have committed to in broad terms is threefold. First, we're going to enter the next era of Fairfield's growth as an institution. With new facilities for nursing and science, we believe that we have both capacity and demand to grow our traditional aged residential undergraduate population modestly, to maintain a steady population of about 4,000 students. And we're going to do this while intensifying and focusing on our recruitment efforts to recruit the best students possible. We are already seeing success in this area. We received close to 11,000 applications for this year's freshman class, and our admit rate fell to 65%, down 6% from last year. So we are intensifying our marketing efforts and embracing significantly more focused enrollment methodologies to attract more and better undergraduate students, and this will continue. We also plan to grow our graduate population and develop new programs for non-traditional students. All the demographic indicators show that there is a great demand for further education and professional certification for those who are no longer in the traditional age undergraduate cohort. We must always bear in mind that Fairfield was founded to provide educational opportunities to people, in those days men who were not otherwise likely to have access to a university unless somebody reached out to them. Jesuit education is and should be driven by this mission to serve. Clearly, our neighbors, who are prospective non-traditional learners, is a population that needs what we have to offer, and we are committed to building the infrastructure, creating the learning environment, and embracing the teaching models that will serve this population. If we are going to grow, then we will need to build more, better, and smarter classrooms, more meeting and social spaces, especially in our residence halls, better recreation and dining facilities, and so on. We have significantly upgraded the technical capacities of our classrooms this summer and started the iPad initiative, which we hope will enhance the classroom experience both for students and faculty, and have many other technical and software upgrades in place, most of which I don't understand. As you know, we are building new facilities as well, and with the Recplex on its way to a major renovation that will greatly enhance its capacity, we are on our way. We're also going to dramatically enhance and expand, as you know, our nursing and health sciences facilities. This is a growth area, and frankly, an area where we are already strong and have shown important leadership. And so we will be seeing a new health science facility in the not too distant future. most likely starting that project this coming spring. There will be more expansion for our facilities as well. While Fairfield 2020 process was underway, we were simultaneously undertaking a preliminary master planning program where we assessed our facilities and needs and projected what we would need in the future. It's premature to go into significant detail on what we have considered in the master plan, as those discussions are still preliminary, but it is no secret that our current Dolan School of Business facility is not adequate for our needs. Our business school is growing in stature and enrollments, and so we will have to develop more space for the school to grow. We also need to create more space for other academic programs that are overcrowded or inadequately housed. This will involve renovation and probably additions to existing buildings on campus. Naturally, if we are going to grow, we need more resources. This is particularly challenging, as you know, as we have reached a ceiling to a very large extent, as far as tuition and fees are concerned. We cannot really raise our tuition and fees significantly beyond the cost of living. This means that we have to do two things. One is to be as efficient as possible, and we are doing everything in our power to be efficient. As you know, this was an important emphasis of Fairfield 2020. Utilizing technology where we can to expand our capacities, demanding competitive bids from our vendors, and this has already generated significant cost reductions and will continue to do so. The other direction that is open to us, of course, is to raise money. And in a matter of a few weeks, we will be publicly launching our Fairfield Rising campaign. This campaign will be the largest in Fairfield's history, and it has three broad goals: to raise money for people, student scholarship, and endowment for faculty chairs; for programs, meaning money that can support the expansion of our academic offerings, as well as the infrastructure we need to support those programs; and for places, meaning new facilities like the Recplex, Rafferty Stadium, and the new Integrated Nursing and Health Sciences facility. This campaign is going to give us the resources we need to grow, and you should know that we have already been tremendously successful. Our goal is $160 million, and as we go into the public phase of the campaign, we have already raised over $110 million, much more than we would have hoped to have raised at this juncture. So we anticipate that not only will we reach our goal, but we believe that we have an excellent chance of exceeding it. These funds will benefit us all. More money for financial aid that is generated by our endowment will mean more operating funds to work with from year to year. Endowed faculty chairs will increase our full-time faculty, and improved facilities will help us to accommodate the growth that we anticipate. So this is where we are as we begin the 2015-2016 academic year. Fairfield is very definitely in a place of strength. We are in the midst of a challenging and swiftly evolving higher education environment, but we believe that we have taken the steps needed to successfully engage with that environment, and we are succeeding. I want personally to thank each and every one of you for what you have contributed to the university, for all that you do every day, and for all the hard work and sacrifice that has been asked of you in the last few years as we have pivoted to address the challenges and opportunities that are upon us. And I'd like to thank you all for the work that we will undertake together in collaboration to move Fairfield University forward so that we can become the learning community that we all know we have the potential to be. Finally, and this is important, I'd like to say, don't just be a spectator in this process. Don't wait for things to happen. Fairfield 2020 has begun and begins now. It is a call to action to all of us to take initiative. Whether you are in the administration, on the faculty, in student affairs, or in support services, Fairfield 2020 is a challenge to all of us to embrace the responsibility to make changes, to make Fairfield University what it has the potential to become. We will succeed, and we will only succeed, thanks to the efforts of hundreds of people working together in a spirit of collaboration. And so I'm asking you not to wait, but to take the initiative yourselves. At this point, I'd like to invite Tom Pellegrino back to lead us in a discussion of some of the questions that you have asked for us to discuss today. Tom?
Thank you, Father. This is a point where I get to sit down. I have in my hand, as you can guess, a series of questions. And I want to identify for the group where we got these questions. Over the past 3 or 4 weeks, we invited all members of the university community to submit questions for the panel here to respond to. And I want to thank, first of all, everybody in the audience who did submit questions. We received a wide range of questions touching on a number of different topics. And I hope that you will see that illustrated in the discussion that we're going to engage in over the next 45 to 50 minutes. I would also be remiss, I want to make sure to acknowledge and thank all the students who are joining us here today. This is why we are here. This is for you. And we greatly appreciate your attendance here today. If you are missing class, Dr. Babington will issue excuse slips after the convocation. Just kidding, Mary Frances. So let's get started. Just a couple of rules of procedure here, though. We have received a number of questions. To get through those, we will be addressing all the questions here today. I am sure that members of the audience will have questions, either that they have right now, or that will arise as they listen to our discussion here today. I would invite you to do one of two things, and this is a genuine offer. First, if you do have questions, please email them directly to me at any time after the convocation. We will facilitate them and get them back in various fashions. The second thing is we will be around after this convocation for the reception afterwards. And we would invite you to come and talk to us directly, particularly if there's questions that you have that you would like to address to any of us directly. That's the purpose of why we're here today. All right. So thank you for taking a moment to hear about the process piece. Let's get into the questions themselves. I will start with Lynn. Lynn, Fairfield 20 wrapped up in May with the publication of the report entitled 2020, The Way Forward. What's next?
Well, Kevin and I were so pleased that not only did the 27 people who were on the Strategic Planning Committee, but they endorsed this document, but so did the Board of Trustees and the administration. As you all know, hundreds of people worked on developing the recommendations in the strategic plan and through the various task forces and open forums that we had. And we should all feel very proud with the end product. It really provides the momentum for us to move forward in implementing some changes that will really take us to a new level as a university. Now, we've already implemented some of those changes. For example, academic support and retention has been combined with career planning to help our students and provide needed services there. We've upgraded technology throughout the university, as Father noted earlier, and we've changed some of our business processes, which have already yielded more efficiencies and more effectiveness for us as an institution. So what we see in the next 12 to 18 months, I think you'll see a lot of change, and that change, the momentum from that change, arises from the implementation, which many of us are involved in pieces of the strategic plan, as well as the continuation of really coming up with a master campus plan that will help guide some of our facility decisions. And we look forward to all of us working together on that.
Thank you very much. Kevin, one of the major emphases in the 2020 plan is on non-traditional students. Why is that the case, and what have you seen transpire over the past year in support of non-traditional students?
You know, there once was a bank robber who was asked, why do you rob banks? And the answer was, that's where the money is. Well, in many respects, that's the answer to this question. If you take a look at the non-traditional market right now, you know, the Wall Street Journal reported that there's about 18 million undergraduate students across the United States right now. About 45% of those are enrolled in traditional four-year programs. That leaves 55% of the pool that are in non-traditional programs. Those could be online, those could be part-time, those could be degree completion, it could be a whole plethora of things, and quite frankly, if you arrived on this campus 4 or 5 years ago as a 25-year-old ex-Marine from Kandahar and wanted to finish the degree you had started before you left, you'd have a hard time finding a place to go. And we want to be more receptive to that group. The other statistic that's interesting is that 50% of the students around the United States begin and complete a degree in 4 years. 50% don't, which means some of them take a few months longer, some of them take a few years longer. So this notion of lifelong learning becomes more and more important to us. And I think the 2020 process recognized the importance of that. They recognize we can serve that market and serve it well, and we've been hard at work starting to put together support mechanisms to address that market.
And I also would like to add that there's really 3 groups of students. Kevin spoke to the degree completion students, students who haven't finished a baccalaureate degree and would like to do so. In addition to that, there are people who have finished a baccalaureate degree and have very good jobs, but would like additional skills through certifications, continuing education, and we have the opportunity to partner with some of our local businesses to be able to meet the needs that those particular businesses might have. And then there are the lifelong learners, and they don't want a certificate or a degree, but may want to increase their knowledge in areas that they haven't had the opportunity to explore before. And that's a market. We do some very nice programming in that market, but there are opportunities in that market as well. So this market for us really allows us to take our Jesuit heritage and figure out how we can provide education, whether it's degree completion, certification, or lifelong learning, that really embodies the spirit of the type of education that is important to us as a Jesuit institution. So that's the challenge to us and the opportunity.
And that doesn't mean that we're taking our eye off the ball. Resident 4-year undergraduate programs will always be the core of Fairfield, and we absolutely intend to continue that as our core and continue to invest and improve and strive towards excellence in that area. But these other adjacent areas, I think, are equally important, and we need to sort of broaden our reach, broaden the pool that we look at in terms of our address market, and go in that direction.
One thing I would add to that is that as we support these students, the services that we provide for them outside their classroom experience is vitally important. And it's been amazing to see how the Office of Student Engagement in particular has really gravitated towards that purpose in terms of serving our particular international and our graduate student population. And that has been a wonderful evolution of the student service side of the coin as well. One of the first questions, I think the first question we received in from the university community was on value proposition. And I'll address this question to Jeff. As the university evolves and adapts to its environment, the writer asked, do you see the value proposition changing or evolving, especially as it relates to students and the parent experience as well?
Thanks, Tom. The core, really, of our value proposition will not change in any significant way. It is, in a sense, who we are. You know, I articulated that value proposition just about 12 years ago in my inaugural address to the university, when I talked about learning and integrity, when I talked about how it was so critically important for our students to develop a sense of self, a sense of identity, out of the subjects that they were studying and their ability to integrate those subjects, that out of that sense of personal identity, of knowledge of who you are based on what you know, that our students would be able to develop a sense of values, a sense of beliefs that were grounded in things that they knew and understood, and that out of those values they would act in the world as men and women for others, for the sake of justice. That certainly is the value proposition that's at the core of liberal arts undergraduate education in the Jesuit and Catholic mode at Fairfield University. For our graduate students, we hope to obviously educate people of competence and commitment and compassion, people who are committed to a vision of the common good and to realizing that vision and to a vision of social justice. And so that core of our identity, that core of what our value proposition is what it has been in Jesuit education, arguably for 450 years. It's the vision of education that Fairfield was founded on. It's the vision that I inherited and have tried to continue to articulate and continue to develop. I think we have a couple of challenges as far as the value proposition of Fairfield is concerned. You've heard a bit about one of them. It's to be able to offer that kind of Jesuit educational experience in new and different modes, to new and different audiences, to offer the vision of Jesuit education and the reality of Jesuit education, again, to non-traditional students, to students who aren't full-time, traditional age residential students, to part-time students, to offer it to students who will mainly come to us online. That hasn't been the way that we and other Jesuit institutions have done things in the past. It's always been based kind of on face-to-face interactions. So the challenge, in a sense, for the value proposition of the university as we look at new audiences is how do we take that value proposition and make it a reality for a new group of people? How do we take that value proposition and deliver it in different modes than the ones in which we have delivered it before? The second aspect of the value proposition that we have to take a careful look at and maybe think about in more new and original ways is preparing our students for fulfilling and meaningful careers when they graduate from this institution. And of course, for the students and their parents, the shorthand for that is helping them find meaningful employment. Now, we believe that the kind of education that we offer our students, both at the undergraduate and graduate level, is going to position students about as well as they can possibly be positioned for success in the world outside, whether it's in business, education, service, just whatever it is, the kind of basic vision of liberal arts education or professional education that I just articulated is, I think, the best preparation for our students to enter the world and to be successful. But we have to be a lot more systematic about the way in which we prepare them to offer themselves to employers and others who would engage their talents. We have to prepare them long range to be successful in the job search and presenting themselves as effectively as they possibly can. And so looking very carefully at things like career planning and placement, making sure that our students understand the importance of engaging in that process early on, making sure that we're doing as good and as effective a job as we possibly can in career planning and placement, making sure that we're tracking our results through assessment and other processes to make sure that what we are promising them, we are actually delivering them. But I think, taking our students who are among the best prepared students, I think, in the country, and making sure that they're going to be successful, that takes effort on our part. It's based on what we deliver, at the basis of our undergraduate education. But we really have to make sure that the processes and the services and the offices that we have in place to do this are doing the best job they possibly can. Obviously, that's something that both our students and their parents expect.
Thank you.
One other side of the whole value proposition equation is the cost of a college education. Jeff talked about what we deliver as part of the value proposition, but we also need to be acutely sensitive to the fact that other than perhaps your home, sending one of your sons or daughters to a university now is probably one of the biggest investments you make. And families, give up significant things in order to be able, and sacrifice in order to be able to make that happen. That means that we as fiduciaries and custodians have to be very judicious about the way we extend resources here. The board has made it very clear, and we absolutely support this, is that the increases in tuition year over year have got to be limited, have got to more clearly reflect the increase in the cost of living, so that the cost of a college education just doesn't escalate on an unlimited basis. That creates a real challenge for us as an institution to be able to balance a constrained revenue source, which goes through every department, every employee here. It's one of those things where we need to make sure that the resources of this university are being spent on the highest priority and being spent as efficiently as possible, and I think you'll see a lot of initiatives on that front.
Lynn, one of the observations I made during last year's process with 2020 was the level of interest and engagement by students on the issue of technology. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about some of the innovations and advancements you see us making in the area of technology.
Well, a university not only can't be competitive, but it wouldn't be a university if we really didn't pay very close to technology and the use of technology and leveraging the technology that we have. And we've been doing that, but we will continue to do that and accelerate that momentum. You've all seen a few things since coming back to campus, for those of you who have come back, and this summer you've sat through some of these things coming into play, but we've increased the bandwidth across the university so that it's easier to be connected and the connections are better. We have charging stations in many of the buildings now so students can charge their multiple devices. We've had major upgrades in technology in a number of classrooms and have that in the continual planning process on a regular basis. Father talked about the iPad initiative. Our faculty have embraced iPads, and they have been last year and continuing even more this year, flipping the classroom, tweeting and blogging with their students to augment learning. Taking the opportunity to develop new apps and use gaming theories in teaching. And our faculty embrace this. Not everyone embraces it, and it might not fit in all disciplines, but the majority of faculty are very interested in making sure that we do leverage technology to augment our teaching and to really be able to connect with students in a better way. We will continue to roll out new technology. I mean, look at the library. We have thousands and hundreds of thousands of e-books available anywhere in the world, actually, as well as periodicals. You can have live chats with librarians who immediately help you with your research, whether you're a student or a faculty member, or you're traveling and you just want to find out the best place to go in this particular city. Our librarians are great in helping that way. The business school uses technology. They use gaming theory. They use the Bloomberg terminals to help students learn and to simulate learning. Certainly in the School of Nursing, laboratory and simulation plays a huge role in learning. So these are just a few examples of technology that is an important part of not just the education of our students, but the life of a university. And we have a commitment to continuing to improve that technology and try out new technologies as they come available.
That's great, thank you. This next question was not addressed to anybody in particular, but as I read through it, I think it's a question for Kevin. Throughout the 2020 process, a rather bleak picture was painted of higher education in general and the threats that face it. Do you think 2020 responds to these threats? Does the plan, the 2020 plan, address the threats on the horizon? Are we out of the woods yet?
You know, I was probably the one that was, I think I was labeled Dr. Doom for a while because I was reading the tea leaves on the horizon and trying to interpret those to our particular circumstances. Clearly, the higher education space is as volatile as it's ever been, and I think that will continue. The good news is that our 2020 strategic plan was fully informed or fully based in the context in which we are operating right now. We saw these things on the horizon, and everyone involved in the process, from the committees to the individuals involved in those committees, ground their particular recommendations in that context. If you look at the document itself, you'll see that this strategic plan has as one of its front sections the strategic context. That is the environment in which we need to thrive in, and we do intend to thrive. So I think the plans that we've developed as part of 2020 will indeed respond to the challenges that we have on the horizon. But there's a big difference between having a plan and executing a plan. So the next 12 to 24 months are going to be critical to us. I think what we're going to see is a bow wave of activities that have started and is barely noticeable, but those will accelerate. One of the elements of 2020 is kind of massively parallel initiatives, something that we might not have thought of before or tried to attack sequentially. Now we're trying to attack them simultaneously. We're looking at technology at the same time we're looking at facilities, that we're looking at the way we teach classes, we're looking at the individuals and the groups that we teach classes to, whether we're a resident population or an online population, all of that is happening simultaneously. And I predict that you're going to see a bow wave of action coming forward that will pivot us to that future that we all anticipate.
Thank you. This next question, a number of responders focused in on this particular topic, including at least one student submitting a question. I'll address it to Father Von Arx. What is the university's plan to increase and support the diversity of students, faculty, and staff?
Thanks, Tom. I'll talk a little bit about that in general, and in particular in reference to our undergraduate population, and then I'll pass it on to Lynn to talk a little bit about graduate students and faculty and staff, and you, Tom, to talk also about staff, and then also about structural initiatives that we're taking, especially in your division. As many of you know, one of the initial commitments I made to this community when I arrived here 12 years ago was to do something about our diversity figures. When I arrived here, Fairfield had the lowest percentage of minority students of any of the AJCU universities. We've made significant progress in that regard over the years. There have been some bumps along the way. The recession set us back a couple of percentage points as far as our minority student population was concerned, but we've been growing that steadily since the recession. The last couple of years, we've increased minority minority enrollments at the undergraduate level by about 1% each year, and that happened this year as well. So we're a little bit above 15% minority students according to the traditional classifications. As you know, when I talk about diversity at Fairfield, I always say that diversity at this university is not just about racial and ethnic diversity, it's about socioeconomic diversity, it's about cultural diversity, people who come to the university with different personal experiences and orientations and backgrounds, and so we have to look at diversity through a very broad kind of lens. Clearly, one of the things that is going to help us increase diversity, especially socioeconomic diversity at the university, is to double down on our financial aid. And as many of you know, financial aid at Fairfield University has increased considerably over the years, and it is certainly that financial aid that facilitates the attendance of students from a lower socioeconomic level. We need to continue to do that. As you know, one of the great ambitions of the capital campaign is to get financial aid off of the operating budget. Most of our financial aid comes from the operating budget, not from the endowment, to get more of it off of the operating budget and onto the endowment. So when I talk to potential donors and they say, Father, what do you need money for? You know, sometimes I have particular projects, but more often than not, if they do not have a specific interest, I say we need that money for financial aid to help needy students to come to this institution. So that continues to be a big and important drive for Fairfield. Lynn, why don't you talk a little bit about faculty, if you want?
Okay. In terms of faculty, staff, and graduate students, we are a little more diverse, still not as diverse as we should be to reflect the population we live in. Our graduate student diversity, students of color make up about 34%. That comprises a number of international students, but also some of the professional schools are quite diverse, and that's good, and we want to continue with that. Our faculty is about 18% of our faculty represent diverse groups, and staff about 14%. We have a commitment in the academic division to hire for both a diverse population of faculty and to hire for mission. We think it's critically important that our faculty that commit to the university have an understanding of who we are and reflect the society in which we live. And we will continue to place a strong emphasis on that, and also to build within the academic division and student services, which Tom will speak to in a moment, the kinds of supports that people need to be successful once they arrive here on campus. We've begun some of that now with some very good results, and we'll continue to grow that.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. One of the, in the area of student support services, one of the things that we certainly know, and we have certainly come to really understand over the past years, the word diversity itself fails to sometimes grasp the reality of what our students in particular face on a day-to-day basis, both certainly in the external world, but very much on our campus. What we experienced over the past year in a very positive way was an interaction with the university community, with faculty, with staff, with a group started by students called Racial Justice for Social Justice. Racial justice is social justice. And the group in this sort of grassroots effort really brought to attention to the university around the various issues that we were facing currently. And one of the issues that came up was the administrative support, or the lack thereof, that we had here on campus. So fast forward to where we are today, based heavily on the discussions back and forth that we had with these advocates, particularly with the students. We have created, with the support of Father Von Arx, a position, the Director of Student Diversity Programs and Multicultural Affairs. While this position, which is currently in the search process, while this position will be housed in the Division of Student Affairs, it is our anticipation that this person, with the assistance of a faculty advisor and colleague, will have outreach through the President's Institutional Diversity Committee to many issues that face both the student population as well as the university population more broadly stated. This person, when they're hired, will be reporting to our Associate Vice President and Dean of Students, Karen Donahue, and we're very much looking forward to solidifying, but not necessarily answering all the questions, but solidifying that void which was so clearly identified last year.
I might add that as co-chair of the President's Institutional Diversity Council, along with a faculty member, this person will have direct access to me as president.
Kevin, changing gears a little bit here. Father Von Arx, in his opening comments, mentioned a campus master plan. Can you say a little bit more about what this plan might just contain?
The campus master plan is a necessary adjunct to the 2020 strategic plan. It takes a look at all of our facilities and how they may or may not support our strategic direction going forward. You know, we have an aging infrastructure, one that requires constant upkeep and investment. And the master plan seeks to integrate the investments in that infrastructure with the strategic direction we're going in. I think Father Van Aert mentioned some of the items in that master plan, but it runs the whole tide from housing, and not only the quantity of housing, but also the condition of existing housing, to our classroom space. And one of the things that already came out of the master plan was an accelerated upgrade in the technology that's available in our classrooms, right? Over the course of the summer, I think we got to 63% of our classrooms have been updated over the course of the summer with new, more state-of-the-art technology. But it also looks at things like the Dolan School of Business, some of the initiatives we have in communications and other areas, and I think as this thing becomes closer to fruition, we'll be discussing with more of the constituencies on campus how these things fit into the overall puzzle of this campus and outside this campus. I mean, one of the things that the master plan is grappling with is whether or not in the future we're going to be bounded by these acreage around this particular campus, or we need to break out with satellite campuses and those kinds of things. So there's a lot of debate and dialogue going on in that arena. We have had an outside firm called Goody Clancy, an architectural firm, helping us with this. There's been extensive interviewing of various constituents around the campus just to ascertain and ensure that we've got all of our needs identified and that the path that we're taking responds not only to our current needs, but things that will surface in the future. You know, one thing I'll point out to is probably near and dear to all the freshmen and sophomore that are in the audience right now, is we're taking a hard look at whether air conditioning makes sense in the quad in the future. You know, I think the last few weeks at 90 degrees plus has been a little bit of an impediment to a learning environment, and that's one of the things we're looking at. But in addition to that, we're looking at the connectivity of some services on campus, whether or not we have them clustered correctly to enable the most efficient use of those particular resources. So stay tuned, there's more to come. You will be involved in this process if you haven't been already, and I think you'll be excited because I will guarantee you that the next 24 months is going to be transformational as far as this campus.
I might add that besides some of the obvious things that Kevin mentioned, the other thing that's rather obvious is that we have an empty building right now. And, you know, we're trying to figure out just what the best plans for that building will be. And clearly it will be in the interest of the academic division of the university, as I indicated in my own remarks, to relieve overcrowding and inadequate housing of some of our academic programs.
I just want to tack on it just came to mind is one of the resounding recommendations from a number of groups in 2020 was that we need more informal gathering spaces on this campus. We need to have the ability for students and faculty and other groups to collaborate more readily and to find space to get together to do that. So that absolutely is an element of the master plan going forward, and you'll see us actually taking things offline to create those spaces across the campus to make them more readily available.
In our last 10 minutes, Lynn, I'll pose a question to you, and the question is on collaboration. One of the people posing a question to me was involved in the 2020 process. They commented that the 2020 process was an exercise in collaboration. And now that the process, at least in terms of our strategic planning process last year, is wrapped up, the question was posed as to what will continue in terms of collaboration and improving on communications with our campus community, engaging the campus community. What steps do you anticipate taking to make sure that these issues around community engagement and collaboration and communication continue to be enhanced and improved?
Well, there's no more a collaborative place than a university. The university that we exist in today is like a village. We have our own public safety, we have dining and a library, we have residential facilities and teachers and students, et cetera, et cetera. We need to make sure that our village, that we intentionally are creating a just village where everyone is valued. That's an important value for this university, and we are committed to making sure that happens. As you said, the 2020 process was very collaborative. We had people from all different sectors of the university working together and came up with a great product. We continue to do that kind of work right now. If you look at all of the things that we've accomplished since beginning that process, it's really fantastic. We've developed new interdisciplinary programs and majors and minors in collaboration across different divisions within the university. We've leveraged technology and people in areas of IT and academic computing work so closely with our faculty across campus. Some of our initiatives between student services and academic support services benefit our students in many ways. I could go on and on with some of the really exciting things that have happened already. We will continue to do that. It is very important for all of us, if this is going to be successful, to continue to collaborate and share our good ideas, because that's how we've been getting the best results, through people getting out of their wheelhouse and thinking a little bit differently about things. Now, when we talk about communication, this is a good example. We need to get together and gather as a university community more often, so we can share our vision, so we can respond to questions that multiple people may have around campus. I think our communications and marketing division have done a great job in not just freshening up, but changing the look and the frequency and the way we communicate both internally and externally. We are communicating with our parents, not our parents, but the parents of the students much more frequently. Some of you might be, but much more frequently than we ever did before. And we are engaging our alumni in new and different ways. And we'll continue to do that, because if we are going to be and continue to be a collaborative community, we need communication more frequently and across sectors.
I just got a text from my mom actually recently. Why didn't you call?
One of the things that I think those of you that don't spend a lot of time in Bellarmine don't realize is the tremendous work that's taken place over the last 18 months in just unifying the leadership of this university and aligning it. We went off-site as a leadership team last September, a combination of all of the department heads and the deans, and worked hard on articulating the way we were going to operate on a go-forward basis. There's nothing more destructive to collaboration than stovepipes, where one organization is not talking to the other. And just before this session this afternoon, the four of us met in one of our recurring informal luncheons just to talk about what's going on in campus and make sure we're all on the same page. So I think it's just one of the signals that we're all focused on collaborating as a university and having that sort of go right across all spectrums of the university going forward.
In the final few minutes, I am going to ask Father to address the last question, but let me pose a question to all three of you. If you were to anticipate, after this convocation ends, even at the reception, if you were to anticipate a question that you might get asked directly by somebody out in the audience, what would it be? I promised I would throw them a curveball, and I saw Kevin's expression. He's not happy.
How are we going to pay for all of this? How are we going to pay for all of this? But I mean, we're talking about that, and we have some ideas.
And And I think the question I might get is, are we paying very close attention to following the appropriate processes for approvals of certain academic programs and involving the right groups? We're committed to doing that, but I think that's a question that I would expect to be asked.
Yeah, I guess, you know, one of the things that we continue to challenge ourselves with is, are we being collaborative enough? That are we communicating sufficiently? Are we sharing and tapping into the immense resource that resides within this campus? And I think the answer is it's a continuing process. There's nothing that we've accomplished today that we can't improve on, and we're going to continue on all fronts. This is not a terminal process. We have not defined it. There won't be a beginning and an end. What we're hoping to build is an innovative culture so that we're continually challenging what we do as an institution and continuing to challenge the way we do it, so that tomorrow will be better than we are today, and so forth. So I think the thing that we all have to keep challenging ourselves, am I doing enough? And Father talked a little bit about our urging this entire community to not be spectators, because we need everyone's, you know, I used to have a boss that said, we can't have any strap hangers, you all have to have your butt in the seat. And I think that's true here. We're driving in a certain direction. The velocity of that improvement is going to be heavily dependent upon how many of you we can invite into that process.
I'll answer the question too, to be fair. I think our friends in career services would ask the question, to what extent is our planning focused or relevant to the student experience after they graduate from Fairfield University? How much of this is aligned to preparation for life after they get their degree? And now our final question to Father Von Arx. How can everyone here at Fairfield make a difference? When I go back to my desk today, after the wine and cheese buffet, when people leave here today and get back to their day-to-day work, what, if anything, do you want them to do differently?
I suspect that not everybody's going back to their office after the wine and cheese. Matter of fact, you have my permission. You know, I talked a little bit about that at the end of my remarks. You know, we've had a great experience, I think, of collaboration across the university in the Fairfield 2020. You know, so many people were involved in that process, and so many contributions were made. You know, there were suggestions that made that came in over the electronic transom that we have actually implemented. And a lot of what's going to be implemented through 2020, whether it's going to be this year or things that'll take us, you know, 3, 5, 10 years to implement, are things that emerged from that process. So it certainly is the case that, you know, individuals in whatever role you play at the university can make a real contribution. You know, as we've been saying, we have to find effective ways for people to do that. I mean, it can't just be on an individual basis. So, you know, sometimes you have to talk in your particular programs or offices or divisions about ideas that you can collectively get behind. But you know, clearly, as Lynn indicated, it does take a community effort, because that's part of what the nature of universities are, to achieve these results. So again, we do commit ourselves to try to be more effective in our communication and in our engagement of both individuals and constituencies at the university, and hope for great results from that.
Thank you, Father.
Right.
Thank you. And my thanks, our thanks, to all of you for being here today. Would you please take a moment, though, to join me in thanking Father Von Arx, Lynn Babington. Also, no thanks to Father Allen and to Jen Anderson, Alistair Hyatt, and the many people that behind the scenes made this convocation possible. And again, thank you. Please do join us for the reception afterwards. We look forward to engaging you, and we look forward to many more convocations. Thank you.